Young man, I wish to speak to you today about pornography.
Every day I see men who wish they hadn't slipped off the edge and made their wives cry.
This was not a good thing to be doing, but like addiction happens, it just little by little, and I couldn't stop.
I was attacked by Satan from the cradle, and I never got a chance to experience mortality without this cloud over me.
I was so far gone that I had no idea whether it was the spirit or the adversary.
It's just a preconception that Satan has placed in us since coming into this world kind of as teenagers, that there's no way we could ever amount to anything.
Will you ever be rescued? Will you make it through your own survival story? The answer is yes.
This is a new weapon that Satan has been using.
Deception,
we're not talking
distraction,
about it.
discouragement.
I fight to watch men reaccess the power of God.
I am looking tonight.
It's not out there.
It's become far too normalized.
It's
for
normalized.
men, young and
I
old,
realize now that I am a warrior
who care enough about this battle between good and evil
against the adversary
to sign on and speak
if
up.
I turn my life around and be the person that they need.
We are at war, and for these next few minutes, I want to be a one-man recruiting station.
Welcome to the Eternal Warrior Podcast, helping young people in their quest for self-mastery, sharing stories from the battlefront against war, in the war against Satan and pornography. Aha, still got it. And we have a very special guest, not quite a son of Helaman, but perhaps an eternal warrior all the same. We have Emmaline, and we're so excited to have you,
Happy
Emmaline.
to be here.
Yeah. To get started, just want to know what's cool about you. I know you in kind of a very roundabout way through a friend and in the program. But yeah, can you tell us a little bit about you as much as you're comfortable sharing?
Just life in general, or?
Yeah. Like, I don't know how you know me.
Got it. Let me see.
What makes you you?
Got it. Okay, so to start, I'm a nanny, and I like making music. It's awesome. The way I got in contact with you and our other friend was through the program and through music. Just like I found out that our other friend likes to make music, and then got in contact with you as well. And yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to say his name because I love him so much. His name's Jonathan. I met him in group. I knew he was an epic guy from the start because he already had a passion project for making music. And for reference, passion projects are projects we work on in the group once we're at a certain level of self-mastery. It's something that we can just put all of our talent and our energy into and helps us keep going in the fight. He did a lot of music stuff and he was posting on Spotify. And he just called me one day. He's like, "Hey, do you want to help me record this friend?" And I'm like, "Sure. Where are they at?" "Oh, they live in Idaho." Okay. So we go on an hour-long trek and we meet this fantastic human who writes fantastic songs about God.
Is that me?
Sorry. No. Unfortunately not. I mean, I don't know. Do you?
Not as of yet, but one day.
We'll get you. You have the recording studio and everything. It's
That's
perfect.
Right.
Yeah, Emmaline, would you be willing to share the name of that song we did? What? I forget. It's blanking
all
on me.
good. It's called God of My Impossible.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That gets the feels going. Yeah. I might have to put some links in the show notes, at least to Jonathan's stuff. If you want your stuff there.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Sweet. Let's go. It's pretty epic. Yeah. Any other cool things you like to do? I know you're how's the crafting business?
Crafting. I'm not really doing crafts anymore right now. It's mostly making music and writing lyrics. By far my favorite thing right now. And just like letting people know that God loves them through it.
Oh, so awesome.
So then, Emmaline, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So you do music. Do you have any other hobbies that you do other than just music, or is music where you're at right now?
I used to do things like art and like crafts and stuff, but then everything was like my addiction came up and depression and just kind of stopped. Yeah. Besides, right now it's just writing music, composing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, just writing music, that's not exactly a small thing. That's a pretty impressive talent.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, can we ask, what is your journey been like coming to Eternal Warriors? How did it all start?
Okay. So it started off, I knew that the program existed when I was around 7 years old, but I didn't know that what I had was an addiction, so I didn't get into it. But when I was around 18 years old, I was driving down the road with one of my guy friends, and we were getting pretty close, and I knew that I probably should tell him about it. So I'm like freaking out, and it took me a while, but I told him, and he wasn't mad or anything with it, which I'm really grateful about. And from then on out, we would like make sure that we're doing okay each other, and yeah, that's my journey. I learned it from him, and I'm really grateful for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, how did you find out about it at 7? Like that's a young age to find out about.
We just learned about this thing that had helped my brother. I didn't know that it was helping my brother, but I was told about it and how it could help me if I ever did struggle or any sort of self-mastery.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
Just for clarity's purpose, can you say what it was you were struggling with?
Got it. So it's masturbating and pornography. It's very odd for a girl.
Crazy. What? Girls struggle with that?
I hear it all the time.
I think it's honestly it when you say it seems odd, but honestly I don't think it's nearly as odd anymore. I think it's more common than sometimes we'd like to believe.
Yeah. Definitely in today's society where the gender stereotypes are getting more blended and more things are coming out in the open. It's important to keep bringing this out in the open so people don't feel isolated, which will probably talk more about that. Yeah. So you say you had this struggle at a young age. Do you know how young it started?
The devil started getting to me when I was about 6 years old. 6 or 7 maybe. Yeah.
Wow.
You really want me to win?
That's really hard.
Yeah. Oh, that's super hard. How were your parents aware of it, or your family?
No. Well, I didn't know it was an addiction until I talked to my friend about it. He was the first one I ever told.
Oh.
When my parents,
At 18.
Yeah. It took a long time.
Wow. So from 7 to 18, you were dealing with it all alone?
Well, sort of. The devil started getting to me when I was around 7. The actual addiction started when I was probably 14 years old, where it became an actual addiction.
But even then, from 14 to 17? 18,
yeah.
18?
18? 14 to 18, that's 4 years alone. That's pretty hard.
Yeah, it was. It was very difficult.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did your family respond when you finally opened up to them?
That's its own little story. So I ended up telling my sister about it, and I was terrified. It took me forever. And she was like, "Well, maybe you should go tell Mom." I'm like, "No, she's already stressed. She doesn't want to hear about this." In reality, I just didn't want to tell her. And because I loved her, I was like, "Don't put more things on her." But she decided that she asked me first, but she decided to go tell my mom. And I was terrified because I didn't know how she would respond to it or anything. So I went into a room and I put my headphones on and I listened to a song called Warrior on full blast. Because I was just terrified what her response was going to be. If I could hear her, I did not want to have that in my head for the rest of my life. And then my mom opens the door, the room I was in. I'm like, oh crap. And she comes in and she just gives me the biggest hug. I was like, you still love me? And she just held me. She's been a huge support to me.
That is,
you have a good
that's
mom.
so touching.
Yeah, I have a very good mom.
Yeah, and oftentimes that's the case. It's not always the case.
You're not supposed to make me cry this early in the session. That just throws everything else off.
Emmeline's very good at that. I've grown rather resilient because of her. Oh man, that's crazy. And so you said your brother, or knowing your brother kind of led you into the program, Life-Changing Services.
In a way, yeah. After I found out that he struggled as well, it made me feel less alone.
Oh, yeah. Did your mom tell you, or when did that happen?
So when I was in the program, I was telling my mom how I felt really alone. And she said, well, your brother's in it too.
Oh, so it's after you started.
Yeah, after I started, I was in there for like a year or something. She said, it's okay, you don't have to feel alone because there's other people who are also struggling with this. Hence the program. Yeah.
Wow.
And your brother was in it concurrently with you?
What was that?
Your brother was in it concurrently with you? Like you were in it at the same time?
I'm pretty sure he was still like struggling, but he had already graduated, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. So since Sons of Helaman is kind of like young men's program, what program was it that you joined?
I think it was Daughters of Light. I wasn't doing it like with a whole group. so I'm not quite sure exactly what it would be called. I just had a mentor, and it was just us.
Okay. Just working one-on-one with a mentor. Yeah. And that's a big part of doing any part of the program. Like even if you're in a group, they usually sign you up with a mentor as well. Yeah. Yeah. When did you start? Oh yeah, Garrett.
I was just gonna ask what your experience was like. Like, how was your experience within the program and learning this self mastery? How did that go for you?
Well, I never had any falls in my no goal for 125 days, and I actually graduating like immediately. I had to get back in the program, but yeah, that was pretty great.
Let's go.
Oh man, I'm envious.
Motivation. Man, you're the envy of all of us.
Yeah, I feel jealous for my younger
That's
self.
fantastic. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And has it been good ever since?
It was good for a long time, but I still have slip-ups. I guess it's just life, unfortunately. But I have a mentor currently, and she's been so helpful, and I'm so grateful that I have her right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some of the tools that helps out that maybe you guys have discussed? Like do you use the girl power system?
Like the journal? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably have 7-8 books right now. Yeah.
And
cool.
How does that? Have you continued to do that despite? I don't actually know. Are you still in the program? Have you graduated from the program and just continue with the books?
I did graduate, but I had to get back into the program.
Okay.
Sorry, you froze. I didn't know you were still talking. Did you ask me?
I wasn't.
Sorry.
Oh no.
Oh, okay.
You answered my question. I do have a follow-up question though, because you mentioned,
all right,
you graduated from the program and you've had some slip-ups and that's life. But how have you dealt with those slip-ups and made sure that you were maintaining a positive outlook despite the reasons that you would have to be down on yourself, the reasons you would have to beat yourself up? You're clearly not.
Yeah,
You're
I was
clearly
gonna ask
here.
that.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure if I understand the question exactly. Are you saying like how am I still winning? Like what do I do to win?
Or not necessarily what do you do to win, but what has allowed you to keep a positive attitude despite having slip-ups, despite losing a battle every once in a while?
The main thing is remembering why I'm fighting in the first place and remembering my identity.
Ooh.
Those are the main things that have been keeping me going.
That is so good. Oh, yeah. What are some of like the goals that you've had on your girl power squares?
I haven't had any for a while because I haven't really been doing them currently. I can't find a book, but anyway, some of the ones that I've done in the past are ways that I express myself. So like playing the piano or writing music or staying in shape, just stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. So so if I'm remembering correctly, the goals are like RL, and then power PWR. So what? Yeah, where, for example, like where would playing the piano fit in one of those squares?
I normally just found a random place for it, but in the GRL, yeah, I probably would just put it in a random one. I probably would say like this is for me whenever I'm struggling, or I actually sometimes use them as my flagpole. So like whenever I do something else to distract myself with it. Did I answer your?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. Definition time. Flagpole is an activity or a place, usually both, that you go to when you feel a temptation to do something that goes against your values. Just to clarify that, and you can find that in the book, Like Dragons Did They Fight. We got Susan on here. We should probably introduce her. She came on late. Sorry you missed the Emmaline introduction, but she's a young adult warrior who's gone through Daughters of Light with just a mentor, and she's strong in the fight. Yeah. Do you have any questions for her, Susan?
I'm just so glad that she's chosen to share a little bit of her time with us today and a little bit of an insight to her experience. I never had the opportunity to spend time in Daughters of Light, and so I'm really just looking forward to any bits I can learn from her experience and what that was like, so that I know how to share that opportunity for others who might benefit from that and really be looking for something like that. I have been blessed occasionally to meet people that are looking for resources that could really be blessed by knowing what they can expect participating in a program like that. I'm sorry, I was late today.
You're good.
I was in a business meeting and it ran really long. so I'm struggling for words right now. But yeah, like I was really looking forward to this interview, so I'm glad that I'm here. It's really great to be here. And if I think of a question for Emmaline, I will be sure to ask it.
Well, thank you.
Speaking of questions, I have one for you, Emmaline.
Right.
As a woman with sexual self-mastery problems, has that been, would you say that's been more difficult for you? Is there societal pressure there that makes it harder for you?
Yes, there has definitely been a lot of pressure, especially when I went on my mission. I had everyone who knew about it. You know, like you have to start winning your battles every single day. There's a ton of pressure on you right now. I know there's a lot of pressure. There was a lot of pressure on me before, and now there's even more. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Oh, where did you serve your mission?
I served it in the Box Elder County in Tremonton, but I did all my service in Molat, Idaho.
Okay. Awesome. Oh, huh. So you're part of. That's really interesting. Me and Emmaline, we both served service missions at the same time, and we saw each other at a Northern Utah area conference on our service mission. It was
awesome.
Pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah. So technically, we're part of the Northern Utah Tremonton mission, but you were technically like living in Idaho and serving up there. Yeah, that's so cool. What did you do for your service?
I helped deliver food to people that couldn't do it. So I actually got to knock on a lot of doors. So that was kind of fun. Let me see. I also helped at a women's shelter. My favorite one. I love that one so much. I did work at the temple for a while, but I had at that one.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Which
Brigham.
temple?
Yeah.
Ah, Brigham City Temple. Man, you should have told me. I would have planned a trip there.
Well, I was down on the whole time.
As
so.
oh, yeah, the laundry. Yeah, I was in laundry for a little bit, and then I moved to ordnance work, and I'm still doing ordnance work, which, yeah, that's crazy. For like 2.5 years now, I've been an ordnance worker. Longer than my mission. I love your little emote, Susan. She just gave me a little clap. Let's see. We're a Christian organization. Kind of an offshoot. Well, the program is an offshoot from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so I'm just wondering, and feel free to take as long on this question as you want. But how has your battles affected or tied into your testimony of Jesus Christ?
Okay, yeah, long stories.
That's what I came for.
Okay, so every single battle, even before I knew it was an addiction, it always happened the same way where I'd lose, I'd feel the guilt, but every time I would hear or feel God calling my name. And that was, I needed it because I didn't know what was going on. And then after I got into the program, he started sending other voices in my head of like my future children and like people that inspire me. Not where I could literally hear their voices, but where I could feel them really strongly. And it's actually one reason why I didn't leave the church, is because I knew that God was with me. But yeah, that still happens every time. And every time I lose my battles, God tells me to reach my hand up and he spiritually helps me back up. And that's been a huge testimony builder, along with many, many other things as well, where he's made me feel so much stronger. I know, but I can't think of them right now.
That is so crazy. And as long as I've known you, I've always known you to be a very spiritually in tune individual who's been blessed with a lot of experiences from beyond the veil.
Right.
And I just think it's an honor to know you and to have those little insights like that. Just, I can't say enough. It's just a blessing being your friend, because you build up my testimony of just like God is there. There are other people helping you out from the other side of the veil. And so, yeah, I don't have a lot of those experiences. But I feel the truth in what you say and what other people say when they have such stories, and God's touched me in the ways.
Question for you.
Did you have a question, Garrett?
Yeah. Would you say that you're a fairly resilient person, or would you say that your resilience in this particular matter is all due to Christ?
What do you mean by resilient?
Well, for example, if I lose a battle, I'll beat myself up for hours and struggle to see the bright side in things. I can't see much beyond my own failure, or at least that certainly is how it has been most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But clearly, based on your description, your experiences are different. You seem pretty resilient, and that rather than focusing on that, you instead are lifted up by your faith. And I'm just curious if that is if that is a personal trait that you have, or if it is one that you are blessed to have with your connection to God.
I'm going to say kind of both. I think that with a lot of people I know, they do think the exact same way. But in reality, I try to look for the good in everything. I don't always succeed. There are definitely times when God helps me and I know He's there. And I try to remember that. But it's not as easy for me as it looks. And it doesn't always help me. It just does most of the time. There's some of the times when I'll lose a battle and go, okay, I'm going to make it next time. Or I lose a battle and I go, okay, this is the end of the world. I'm never going to win ever again. But then I do over and over again. I still win. I might lose over and over again, but I still win the battles. And I still believe that God will pick me back up afterwards. So I would say both.
I would say that just based on the little bit you've told me about yourself, that you have a tremendous gift of hope. And I say hope specifically because what you're talking about, the seeing the bright side of things, or being able to see that, it's not really faith. That's because there's no action involved in it. It's hope. Being able to see, the light at the end of the tunnel and that's awesome. Like that, you are very blessed with that, I would say.
Oh, thank you.
I think there's something to that as far as like how she's handling the lost battle, how she's able to move through that experience, like you were describing, Garrett, like what your experience is and how that challenge looks for you, and then how she's handling the challenge in the way that she experiences it. It's a different sort of thing. And I think that's a great question that you had, so that we could see this and see the differences, because sometimes we think that things always look pretty much this way, right? And yet sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a little different. And it'll be interesting in the future, if we are blessed to have another opportunity to have an interview with another dear lady who's gone through this, to find out what hers looks like, what that can be like for her. Because again, we might think that there's so much that's just this way, and feel like if we're not in that mold, if it doesn't look exactly that way for us, that something's wrong. And I think it's great to see how both of you are fighting your battles and growing through them and becoming through them into who you are now and who you will be in the future. Because God will shape us the way that we can grow and we can become and be our best selves. And both of you are leaning into that in the unique ways that God knows that you will. And so He meets you where you're at, and you keep learning how to reach for Him and reach for what that can bring you in the way of strength, in the way of capacity, in the way of the ability that you need to overcome. And I just think it's just great to see what it looks like for Emmaline, and what it looks like for you, and what it looks like for Eli, and like just how those pieces of information can, at least in my experience, inform me in how I understand how God communicates with me and reaches for me when I reach for him.
Yeah, totally. That just reminded me of when I need to get a lot better at my quotes, because I know a lot of quotes and I don't know their origin. But some dude said, and it might have been me, I don't know. Some dude said, perfection is a very individual thing. Like when Jesus says, be ye therefore perfect, he does mean in some ways be like me. But the attributes he gives about himself and the attributes we know about him aren't so well defined. What he gives are the things that are really important, which is loving God, which is humility, meekness, being service oriented, being your own self, being an individual. And like he definitely, his ministry was going against the norm, and standing up for a cause he believed was right, despite the negative voices around him. So I'd say perfection is a very individual thing, and our journey here is not to be perfect, but to become perfect. And I think, honestly, the process is beautiful, including the pain and the hardship and the confusion. Every bit of it builds us up to be who we're meant to be. I guess that's one of the things that's given me hope through my battles, is that it all comes together to like rough me out as a hard rock getting his edges refined. I feel pretty beat up and dizzy, but I'm a smooth stone at the end. Maybe even a shiny one.
A question for you, Emmaline. Early on in our conversation, you mentioned that you were talking about when this had first started, and you said a phrase that I think is really important. You said, Satan started attacking me at such and such age. And growing up in a house where, this is, personally speaking, growing up in a house where personal responsibility was a big thing. I was very tempted to claim full responsibility for any of my actions, including those concerning this addiction, which I do have responsibility for my actions. I wouldn't say that I'm not responsible, but it is easy to forget that evil does not originate with us. We are not the authors of evil. We are not the authors of the bad things that we do. Instead, Satan is. And you identified that early on. And I'm curious, have you always been that way? Or was that something that you had to learn through the program? That you are not the author of these wicked acts, but Satan is?
That was definitely through the program. I was always convinced that everything I did wrong was because I had something wrong with me and the thoughts were mine and everything, but it's not true.
Yeah. This is, well, if I can just interject, this is kind of a revolutionary concept, that Satan has a role to play in, well, definitely in our misery. We're taught that in the scriptures, but in our agency. I recently went and saw a new therapist who wasn't part of LCS, Shocker. I've betrayed. And I kind of brought up with him these ideas that Satan had put these thoughts in my head, and he was very concerned. And it's understandable because if we're pinning things on a being that we also have to have faith in because we can't see him, it's very easy to use him as a scapegoat, hand off responsibility. But one thing that's very helpful to keep in mind is God gave us these bodies as our stewardships, and the things we physically do in the real world are ultimately our responsibility. What are your thoughts on that? How does that work out on your mind? Like, how much is your responsibility and what is not? Do you think you can conceptualize that?
I think it's a responsibility to choose. Choosing is very difficult, though, in the situation. It's your responsibility to tell the devil who you are and kick him in the face. And try very, very hard to win the battles and put effort into it and run the flagpoles, because he's tempting you and it's very difficult to win. But it's your responsibility to do your best and try to win the battles.
Yeah. It's the chemical scale. It's the flashes. Sorry, I interrupted you, Garrett.
It's having the courage. It's also having the courage to notice when the time is to do that, because sometimes he can be so deceptive and we don't realize now's the time. That's one of the biggest things I think that happens, is that deception about when the time is to kick him, because he'll be like, nah, you're good. Nah, you're good. Nah, you're good. And you're just going to be like, okay, we're good. I'm good. I got this. We're good. And you don't realize that the kick should have happened back here. Because now you're really struggling so much more to do that. And so I think that there's this ongoing process of really refining our ability to detect when he's deceiving us about the need to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of these things, but I like what Emmaline said, in that it is our responsibility to choose, because our responsibility doesn't go away with addiction, right? Knowing that Satan is influencing us doesn't take away our personal responsibility. But what it does do is it removes the thought or the belief, the false belief that many of us have, that the wickedness or the evilness is coming from within, that I'm the problem, that I'm causing this issue, that there's something wrong with me. There's not something wrong with me. There's something wrong with Satan.
Is humanity inherently evil, or is it inherently good?
Yeah.
That's
exactly. Yeah. It's this question. And I know that for me, it was a moment of relief in my recovery when I recognized, because I always knew that, Satan was a real thing. But when I recognized and started to be honest with myself that Satan's not just real, he's real. Like, he's real, and he influences me. I'm not the bad one. He is. And being able to put that on him and then say, my responsibility is to choose. He's the bad one. My job is just to choose. That took a lot off of me. I don't know if Emmaline, you can relate to that.
Sorry, to which part?
Oh, just that idea of understanding and really coming to know that you're not the evil one. You're not the bad one.
Yes.
Satan
Yes.
is.
Yes.
Is that something you had to go through?
Yes, definitely. Actually, can I share something with that? There was a book I was writing when I was struggling that actually helped me win my battles. And I don't remember what I named it or anything, but it was about this boy who struggled, and he went into this little world where he saw these people walking in a circle and like this path, and it was supposed to represent the spin. And he saw that the only thing you had to do was walk off of it, but they didn't hear because they're in a spin and it goes really fast. But one of the themes that I added in there was right when he started to get tempted to lose a battle, he started hearing voices, but he heard him saying it as if it was him. And then he started hearing a voice as if it was someone else talking. And it was supposed to represent the devil talking, but he was trying to find out which voice was his and which voice was the devil's, who was the liar. Because he heard it saying, I'm the problem. And then he would hear, you are the problem. He's like, wait, that wasn't my voice. And it's actually helped me win so many battles in the past. Because it's true. It's weird to think, but he's the one putting the ideas in your head. And it's very difficult not to listen to them.
Yeah. Oh man, writing passion project all the way. I can guess who you were inspired by. Was it your mother?
I mean, oh yes. Hey, my mom has inspired me. Didn't know you were referring to that, but yes.
Yeah. Her if I can share, your mother is she's an author, right? Yeah. She's an author, and she's also one of the what's the word? Members of a publishing company.
From the Rooftops, yes.
Yeah. Rooftop Publishing Services. That's so cool.
And yes, she was the reason why I started writing books, now that I remember. Because she wrote all these great books. I'm like, well, I want to do that too. It was actually also because of a lady called Leslie Householder who wrote a book very similar to the one I wrote, where he like went into like this different world kind of thing and figured out principles. Discovering how to win and everything.
Interesting.
Wow. Do you remember the name of that book?
It's called The Jackrabbit Factor.
The Jackrabbit Factor.
Yeah, it's a must read.
Dang.
It's great.
Yeah, I'll have to read this because I am curious. I've even on my own, I've been curious about reading fictional books about addiction recovery, right? We get all sorts of things in fictional characters.
This one, it's less about addiction. It's more about like discovering what you want and getting it.
Okay.
But she definitely encouraged me through the book to do what I did.
I see. Yeah. I'm a big fantasy reader. It's one of my big hobbies. And I especially like fantasy because it allows me to see the world in a different perspective without some of the biases that I might have, right? Because it's a fantasy world, right? The rules aren't the same. And that's one of my passion projects is I don't know if I'll ever go anywhere with it other than just writing it for myself. But one of my passion projects was I'm going to write a book about someone who's recovering from addiction in a fantasy setting. A made up addiction with made up rules and everything, but just enough of connections that somebody could potentially share in those points. It's a good outlet for me to be able to write, even though I don't know if I ever plan on getting it published, but just writing it is a good outlet.
Oh, that's so awesome. I would read it.
I'd read it too.
Thanks.
If you do publish it. Oh,
Yeah, you got to share with us.
Well, one day when I finish writing it, I'll share.
it's so true. And there's several people I knew from group that are also doing similar things. Yeah, I think, well, unless we want to talk about other things, we've got a broad scope of things here, like what it's like being a woman struggling with sexual self-mastery. We've gone into passion projects. We've gone into the concept of Satan and his involvement in here, and definition. Satanic spin is in the book. You can look it up. It's a four-step cycle based on psychology that, like flashes you, then makes you feel an emotion. Don't have it all memorized. I'm missing one of them. But yeah, I highly encourage anyone listening and watching to go and look at Like Dragons Did They Fight. And there's always a link in the show notes for that. Emmaline, with your unique experience and your struggles, what would you have to say to young women who are struggling in similar ways with self-mastery, but they're not sure about getting help for their addiction? What would you have to say for them?
Do it. Get the help you need, because it is so helpful. This entire program has been so helpful, especially, if you are struggling with it, tell someone. They can help you. But this program, it has been amazing, and it can help anyone who struggles in any way, whether it's addiction or any sort of self-mastery.
Just do it. You heard it. You heard it from Nike first.
Words to live by.
No,
yeah.
You heard it from Emmaline first.
That's right. Just do it.
Emmaline did it first. It wasn't the other brand. Oh, well, that's awesome. Yeah. Any last questions for Emmaline before I ask her why she fights?
Yeah, I have a question for you. For young women who are going through something similar, do you have words of advice as far as adjusting to the societal pressure and adjusting to the even stronger negative stigma that women in this have versus men having it? Do you have advice for them?
Well, first I'm going to say I don't know anyone who struggles in it still. I've been feeling alone my whole life. Still do. I don't know anyone else. So I'm going to say it as if I'm talking to my younger self, because might help get might help it get it out. Sorry. I struggled with it, and I survived, and I'm doing better. I'm still struggling, but every day I do better. And you might feel alone with what you're going through, but I promise you that you're not the only one who's struggling, and God is with you. And even the days that you feel like He has left you, He hasn't, and He will be with you every step of the way.
That is so good. Susan's giving the heart emojis like crazy. Garrett's a sobbing mess.
I love it.
You made me cry twice.
I
That's
love
not
it.
okay.
Because she's so right. She's so right. Absolutely.
My bad.
It's havoc in the recording room. Thanks a lot, Emmaline. Oh no, you've been awesome. Oh, we're so glad to have you. Can I ask you if you're prepared, why do you fight? Why don't you just give up?
Warrior chemistry in me, just like that.
Oh no,
Sorry, I had
hide.
my mentor ask me that one. Come back. I had my mentor ask me that one time, but I thought she was being serious. Wait, what? Okay. I fight for my future. I fight for myself right now. I don't just fight for my future self. I fight for myself in 5 minutes because I don't know what my future's going to be like. I've always been fighting for my future husband and my future life and my future children as well, because that's all I have right now. I also am fighting for all the people on my team. I'm also fighting for I'm also fighting for my mentors who are trying so hard to get me over this. I'm fighting for my family that I have currently, who know that it's been a struggle for me. I'm also fighting to be happy, because when I lose, I'm not happy. I might have a small hint of feeling happy for a couple of minutes, but it does not last at all. It goes away. And I want to keep that. I'm also fighting for light. I want to keep my light, and I want to stay strong. And I want to be worthy of God and of my future husband. And the list goes on. I fight to go inside the temple. That's a big thing. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I fight for you too, Emmaline. It's so good. You can't see it on my face because I can't express emotions, but the warrior chemistries are hitting me so hard.
I would like to add.
I love it. I love it. So many wonderful things she's fighting for, so many things that she's doing and looking forward to, and just hanging on to what she feels can be in her future. I love it. I mean, that's stuff that I can really resonate with, even though I'm in a different place in my life and I'm doing different things in my life. There's so much there that we can like really just all see as things that are similar to what we're seeking in life. I mean, who doesn't want to have happiness?
Right.
Who doesn't want to feel that? And just, I mean, such a very real thing in this world that's so hard to hang on to, and yet to know that there is a possibility of that is just amazing, and something that I just see you really holding so close to your heart, Emmaline, that hope. And I just applaud that. I applaud that.
And I would add to everything that's been said. Obviously, I will never understand your exact perspective because I can't. As a man, I can't understand your perspective. But I can say that I know what it's like to feel alone. And you may feel that way, but you're not alone. If even if it's only Eli and I, you're not alone. We're here for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Emmaline, you need to go back and listen to Garrett's story when it comes out. It's pretty epic. All right. Well, seems like a good time to wrap up. This has been This has been a wonderful time with you, Emmaline. I'm so glad you had the courage to come on here, had the courage to be open, and I'm sure you're going to be such a help to everyone listening and watching. And till we meet again, promise to be of service to you, and will allow you to be of service to me till both you and I successfully defeat this demon that assails us. Fight on, warriors.
Fight on!
If you're listening to this podcast, you have probably found that you are in need of, you are strongly desiring, a level of self-mastery that you have not been able to achieve on your own, or you are a loved one or a parent who knows someone who would like to achieve that level of self-mastery. It's not fun to be in that situation. Been there, done that. I've become a specialist in this area by spending 30 years initially searching for and harvesting eternal principles found in the world of psychology, science, and the words of the prophets, many of them found in the Book of Mormon, for my own sake first, and then I found that they're of great value to others. Instead of just hoarding these concepts, we put them into a book form that is easy for you to access. Like Dragons Did They Fight? You'll understand the reason why it's called that when you start reading it. But go to likedragonsfree.com, get your own free copy of it, download it, and then when you're ready to talk over your circumstances and make a battle plan, call 877-HERO 877. In other words, 877-4376. Talk to our headquarters people, and if necessary, they'll arrange for you to have a consultation with me. I am sad that you're going through this, but I've watched thousands and thousands of young warriors gain the confidence and strength they need to be able to have the lives they want now and the futures they desire to have. We will see you soon.